Good morning and welcome to Fox 29's News Now on this Wednesday morning, September the 11th. We're going to get started at the Pentagon Memorial, where President Trump and others are taking part in a laying of the wreath ceremony in remembrance of September 11th. Stay with us.
States Navy. Lisa J. Raines. Deborah A. Ramser. Rhonda Sue Rasmussen. Petty Officer First Class Marcia D. Ratchford, United States Navy. Martha M. Reski. Todd H. Rubin. Cecilia E. Lawson Richard. Edward V. Rowenhorst. Judy Rowlett. Sergeant Major Robert E. Russell, United States Army, retired. Chief Warrant Officer William R. Ruth, United States Army Reserve. Charles E. Sabin, Sr. Marjorie C. Salamone. John P. Sammartino. Colonel David M. Scales, United States Army. Commander Robert A. Schlegel, United States Navy. Janice M. Scott. Lieutenant Colonel Michael L. Selves, United States Army, retired. Marion H. Serva. Commander Dan F. Shanower, United States Navy. Antoinette M. Sherman. Diane M. Simmons. And her husband, George W. Simmons. Donald D. Simmons. Cheryl D. Sincock. Chief Greg H. Smallwood, United States Navy. Lieutenant Colonel Gary F. Smith, United States Army, retired. Mary Ray Sopper. Robert Spiesman. Patricia J. Stotts. Edna L. Stevens. Norma Lang Sturley. Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland, United States Army. Hilda E. Taylor. Lieutenant Colonel Kip P. Taylor, United States Army. Leonard E. Taylor. Sandra C. Taylor. Sandra D. Teague. Lieutenant Carl W. Teepee, United States Army, retired. Sergeant Tamara C. Thurman, United States Army. Lieutenant Commander Otis V. Tolbert, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Willie Q. Troy, United States Army, retired. Lieutenant Commander Ronald J. Vaughn, United States Navy Reserve. Lieutenant Colonel Karen J. Wagner, United States Army. Meta L. Fuller. Specialist Chin Sun Pak Wells, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Maudlin A. White, United States Army. Sandra L. White. Ernest M. Wilshire. Lieutenant Commander David L. Williams, United States Navy. Major Dwayne Williams, United States Army. Chief Marvin Roger Woods, United States Navy, retired. Captain John D. Yemnicki, Sr., United States Navy, retired. Vicky Yancey. Petty Officer 2nd Class Kevin W. Yoakum, United States Navy. Chief Donald M. Young, United States Navy. Edmund G. Young, Jr. Lisa L. Young. Shu-In Young. And her husband, Yu Guang Jing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain silent for the arrival of the official party. The national anthem performed by the United States Navy Sea Chanters, a moment of silence to honor those killed at the Pentagon, and the invocation delivered by Chaplain Major General Stephen Scheich, Air Force Chief of Chaplains. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joseph F. Dunford, Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary of Defense, Dr. Mark T. Esper. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and Mrs. Melania Trump.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a prayerful moment of silence. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. Loving God, 18 years ago, terrorists sought to crush and divide us. Instead, the world witnessed the true American spirit. We rejoiced with survivors and shed tears for people we never met. We gave thanks for the men and women who put their lives at risk in an attempt to rescue and aid total strangers. And today we remember the children, parents, spouses, family, and friends whose hearts will forever know the sting of grief. Do not, we pray, let our hope be overtaken by anger. Do not, we pray, let our hearts remain flooded with despair. Be our refuge and our strength, our ever-present help in trouble. And help us rest in your promise that even if we forget you, you'll never forget us. And as persons of many faiths, nations, and cultures gather today, use this ceremony to make all of us a little more like the Twin Towers survivor, Mr. Primwith, who said, "I still have the shoes I wore to work that day. The soles are melted, and they're caked in ash. And they're my reminder of God's presence and the life I owe to Him." May this be our prayer. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joseph F. Dunford, Jr.
Mr. President, Mrs. Trump, Secretary and Mrs. Esper, distinguished guests, and most importantly to the survivors and family members of the fallen who are with us, good morning. It's an honor to join you at this sacred place where 184 men, women, and children were taken from us before their time. They and those lost at the World Trade Center and in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, were the innocent victims of an unprovoked attack. And while they were taken from us prematurely, their memory lives on. We're here today to renew our commitment to never forget. The terrorist attacks were intended to challenge our way of life, and they sought to break our spirit. But their purpose was never realized. That day made us stronger, more determined, and more resolved to protect our nation and that for which it stands. As President George Bush said from the Oval Office in the hours after the attacks, terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel. They cannot dent the steel of American resolve. And that resolve carries on. As we stand here today, our nation's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen are performing their duty across the globe, doing what must be done. And so, as we pause this morning to remember and honor those lost on 11 September 2001, I hope the American people also find comfort in knowing that a new generation of men and women have stepped forward to serve and protect our way of life. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to introduce someone who has embraced public service for decades, our 27th Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Mark Esper.
Thank you, General Dunford. Mr. President, First Lady, members of Congress, fellow cabinet members, men and women of the Department of Defense, and most especially, friends and family members of the Patriots of September 11th, 2001. Welcome to the Pentagon, and thank you for joining us as we gather here to honor those lost on that tragic day, and to recognize the heroes who rose to the occasion in the face of evil. This morning's ceremony affirms our commitment to never forget that fateful day 18 years ago. On 9/11, terrorists from a distant land attacked the spirit of our nation. On a grassy field in Pennsylvania, in the Twin Towers of New York City, and here at the Pentagon, they stole the lives of thousands of innocent people. Fearful of American values, ideas, and freedoms, our nation's enemies sought to dim the beacon of hope that America has long shown throughout the world. And while the terrorist attacks brought great pain, the American people responded with even greater bravery and determination. Most of us recall exactly where we were when we first learned that our nation was under attack. Some were at work, others were at home. A number of you were present in this very building when Flight 77 crashed through its concrete walls. In every case, we remember the initial shock and disbelief we felt when the first airliners struck the World Trade Center. We remember the stories of our fellow Americans who chose to run toward the smoke and fire to save others. And we remember our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who brought justice to those responsible. But on this 18th anniversary of 9/11, service members who were not even born on that day now stand among our ranks. As each year passes and the details of that tragic day fade, we must ensure the memories of the departed do not. This memorial, where we gather for today's ceremony, stands as an enduring testament to remember them, to honor them, to recall their sacrifice. But also, it inspires future generations to serve in defense of our great nation. Throughout our history, America has faced challenges from many adversaries. And while 9/11 may have transformed our great nation, it also reaffirmed America's commitment to defend our people and our way of life, a commitment that remains unchanged since the founding of the Republic 243 years ago. I am proud to stand here today with all of you as we remember all of those who gave their lives so that all of us may continue to live in freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great privilege to welcome a leader who has kept America safe and secure, a commander-in-chief who has rebuilt our military, and a president who puts the defense of our great nation and our people above all else. Please join me in welcoming the President of the United States, President Donald Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Secretary Esper. Today, our nation honors and mourns the nearly 3,000 lives that were stolen from us on September 11th, 2001. On these grounds, 184 people were murdered when al-Qaeda terrorists overtook American Airlines Flight 77 and crashed it into the Pentagon. For every American who lived through that day, the September 11th attack is seared into our soul. It was a day filled with shock, horror, sorrow, and righteous fury. I vividly remember when I first heard the news. I was sitting at home watching a major business television show. Early that morning, Jack Welch, the legendary head of General Electric, was about to be interviewed when all of a sudden they cut away. At first, there were different reports. It was a boiler fire, but I knew that boilers aren't at the top of a building. It was a kitchen explosion in Windows on the World. Nobody really knew what happened. There was great confusion. I was looking out of a window from a building in Midtown Manhattan, directly at the World Trade Center, when I saw a second plane at a tremendous speed go into the second tower. It was then that I realized the world was going to change. I was no longer going to be, and it could never, ever be, that innocent place that I thought it was. Soon after, I went down to Ground Zero with men who worked for me to try to help in any little way that we could. We were not alone. So many others were scattered around, trying to do the same. They were all trying to help. But for the families who join us, this is your anniversary of personal and permanent loss. It's the day that has replayed in your memory 1,000 times over. The last kiss, the last phone call, the last time hearing those precious words, "I love you." Then the attack, the anguish of knowing your family member had boarded one of these flights or was working in the World Trade Center or serving right here at the Pentagon. You waited, you prayed, you answered that most dreaded call, and your life changed forever. To each of you, the First Lady and I are united with you in grief. We come here in the knowledge that we cannot erase the pain or reverse the evil of that dark and wretched day. But we offer you all that we have, our unwavering loyalty, our undying devotion, and our eternal pledge that your loved ones will never, ever be forgotten. 18 years ago, the terrorists struck this citadel of power and American strength. But the enemy soon learned that they could not weaken the spirit of our people. In times of distress, the heart of the American patriot only grows stronger and more determined. Even in the midst of the attack, the world witnessed the awesome power of American defiance. 40 passengers and crew on Flight 93 rose up, fought back, and thwarted the enemy's wicked plans. In their final moments, these American heroes thunderously declared that we alone decide our fate. We saw American perseverance in the valiant New York firefighters, police officers, first responders, military, and everyday citizens who raced into the crashing towers to rescue innocent people. One such American was retired Army Colonel Rick Rescorla, who gave his life on 9/11. Rick earned the Silver Star and the Purple Heart for his service in Vietnam. He later became the Vice President for Security at Morgan Stanley in the World Trade Center. On the day of the attack, Rick died while leading countless others to safety. His selfless actions saved approximately 2,700 lives. Today, I'm honored to announce that we will soon be awarding the late Rick Rescorla the Presidential Citizens Medal for his extraordinary sacrifice. Though Rick has left this earth, we will ensure that the memory of his deeds will never, ever be forgotten. His memory will forever endure. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Here on the western side of the Pentagon, we saw brave men and women rush into the fire and race into the scorching flames to rescue their colleagues. When evil seeks to do us harm, the incredible men and women of the United States military answer with unyielding valor and unstoppable resolve. Navy Admiral David Thomas crawled through live wires and helped lift a wall of debris to save the life of a colleague. As Admiral Thomas remembers, it was the worst day of my life, but the heroism and selfless disregard I saw that horrible morning is forever burned in my heart. Admiral Thomas, America salutes you and every patriot who defied evil that day. Thank you very much, Admiral. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Army Ranger Chris Brayman repeatedly went back inside the burning building, rescuing one injured person after another. Before he entered, he said a prayer and asked God to give him strength, and then he dove into the suffocating smoke and fumes and flames. At the same time, Sheila Moody had just prayed that someone would find her. Then she heard Chris's voice. As Sheila says, God sent Chris as her guardian angel. To Sheila and Chris, America is strengthened by your goodness and your grace and your bravery. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. to fulfill our unbreakable promise to every survivor and family of 9/11. Earlier this year, we fully reauthorized the Victims' Compensation Fund to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. Since September 11th, nearly 6 million young men and women have joined the United States Armed Forces. They have crossed seas, climbed mountains, trekked through deserts, and rushed into enemy compounds to face down the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. Nearly 7,000 service members have laid down their lives to protect our home, our flag, and our American way of life. American freedom survives only because there are patriots willing to sacrifice everything in its defense. No tribute is sufficient to convey the infinite depth of our nation's gratitude. On this solemn day of remembrance, our thoughts also turn to the 200,000 valiant soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, and Marines who are now, at this very moment, stationed overseas. We do not seek conflict, but if anyone dares to strike our land, we will respond with the full measure of American power and the iron will of the American spirit, and that spirit is unbreakable. We had peace talks scheduled a few days ago. I called them off when I learned that they had killed a great American soldier from Puerto Rico and 11 other innocent people. They thought they would use this attack to show strength, but actually what they showed is unrelenting weakness. The last 4 days, we have hit our enemy harder than they have ever been hit before, and that will continue. And if for any reason they come back to our country, we will go wherever they are and use power the likes of which the United States has never used before. And I'm not even talking about nuclear power. They will never have seen anything like what will happen to them. No enemy on earth can match the overwhelming strength, skill, and might of the American armed forces. And we have rebuilt and strengthened in the last 2.5 years, spending $700 billion, $716 billion, and now just approved $738 billion, more money by far than ever spent on our armed forces. You are the fearless sentinels who stand watch over all that we cherish and everything we hold sacred, priceless, and dear. This morning, we also give thanks to the dedicated men and women at the Department of Homeland Security. Their department was created after 9/11 to help secure our immigration system and ensure that those who threaten our people are denied entry to our shores. We're indebted to every law enforcement official, state, local, and federal, who devotes their life to keeping America safe. As we gather at this moment and at this incredible memorial, we are reminded that there is no greater testament to our fallen heroes than the presence of their families who knew and loved them so much. Among the family members here today is Stephanie Dunn. Her husband, Navy Commander Patrick Dunn, was one of the patriots who gave his life right here 18 years ago. Before he left that morning, Patrick gave Stephanie a big, beautiful kiss. Then, for the first time, he leaned down and kissed her pregnant stomach. Stephanie was just 2 months along with their first child. Earlier this year, their daughter Allie celebrated her 17th birthday. Allie grew up into a strong, truly remarkable young woman. She mentors the children of our nation's wounded warriors. And recently, I was honored to give Allie the President's Volunteer Service Award for her hundreds of hours of community service. We are blessed to have Allie here with us at today's ceremony. Thank you, Allie. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. And Allie, I know your dad is watching over you. He's right up there. He's watching from heaven, looking down right now with love and pride. He is so proud of you. Thank you very much. Incredible. Also joining us is the Viggiano family. For generations, the Viggiano family has served in our military and in the New York City fire and police departments. These are two great departments. I grew up with them, I know. On September 11th, NYPD detective Joseph Viggiano rushed into the World Trade Center and died rescuing his fellow citizens. His brother John was a New York firefighter. He also gave his life that day at Ground Zero. At the time, Joseph's three sons were just young boys, ages 8, 6, and 3 months old. This morning they are with us. The youngest, John, just started his freshman year of college at SUNY Maritime College, and he plans to join the military. Joseph Jr. is a Marine reservist, and just like his father, he is a proud member of the NYPD. And James is a corporal in the Marines. On his last deployment, James was stationed on the USS New York, a ship made using 24 tons of steel from the World Trade Center. Every time he left the mess hall on his way to his bunk, he passed a picture of his dad. To John, Joseph, and James, and to the Viggiano family, you have sacrificed beyond measure, and you will never, ever stop giving back to this country. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Very proud of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. The heroes present today remind us of an immortal truth. The future of our nation is secured through the vigilance of our people. The brave men and women who tore through the gates of hell to save the hurt and the wounded. The service members who honor the friends who perished by continuing their exceptional life of service. The moms and dads who endure the loss of their soulmates and fill their children's lives with all of the adoration in the world. The sons and daughters who suffered grave loss and yet through it all persevere to care for our neighbors, defend our homeland, and safeguard our nation. Each of your lives tells the story of courage and character, virtue and valor, resilience and resolve, loyalty and love. This morning we make a sacred vow to carry on this noble legacy. Today and every day we pledge to honor our history, to treasure our liberty, to uplift our communities, to live up to our values, to prove worthy of our heroes, and above all, stronger than ever, to never, ever forget. We are now and will forever be one American family, united by patriotism, bound by destiny, and sustained by the faith of Almighty God. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our military. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please render honors for the playing of taps.
white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, America, my home.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's observance. Thank you for joining us this morning. Please remain in place for the departure of the official party. You are welcome to visit the chapel after the official party's departure or remain inside the memorial.
country, grandest on earth. I pledge thee my allegiance, America the bold, for this is my country to have, and to whom the freedom we mountains, to the prairies, to the ocean's wide reform. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with and deep within my breast, I thrill to see all glory paint the breeze. This is my country, land of my birth. This is my country, grandest on earth. I pledge thee my allegiance, America the bold, for this is my country to have and to hold. Let freedom ring, let freedom ring. And where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride. I see, I see, I let freedom, freedom, let freedom ring.
And continuing with our 9/11 remembrance coverage this morning, Americans commemorated September 11th, 2001 with solemn ceremonies and vows Wednesday to never forget 18 years after the deadliest terror attacks on American soil. A crowd of victims' relatives assembled at Ground Zero this morning, where the observance began Wednesday with a moment of silence and tolling bells at 8:46 a.m., the moment when a hijacked plane slammed into the World Trade Center's North Tower. President Donald Trump joined an observance at the Pentagon this morning. Vice President Mike Pence is scheduled to speak at the third attack site near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And former President George W. Bush, the commander-in-chief at the time of the 2001 attacks, was due at an afternoon wreath laying at the Pentagon. The nation is still grappling with the aftermath of 9/11 at Ground Zero, in Congress, and beyond. The attack's aftermath is visible from airport security checkpoints to our current role in Afghanistan. A rocket exploded at the U.S. Embassy as the anniversary began in Afghanistan, where a post-9/11 invasion has become America's longest war. And in local news this morning, not one, not two, but 3 attempted abductions by the same suspect in the same neighborhood. Police are searching for a man tied to at least 3 attempted abductions in Philadelphia's Francisville neighborhood. Fox 29's Lauren Johnson filed this report. And it looks like we're having some difficulties there. But more on the 15th Street attempted abductions. just 2 days after a man was caught on camera allegedly trying to abduct a 21-year-old woman on North 15th Street. Police say more video has surfaced showing the same man attempting to abduct 2 other women on the same block.
He's lying in wait. He's hiding there, and he's just waiting for each victim to come by. And they came, 2 of them were 5 minutes apart. I would recommend anybody fight back, try to get away, scream. Our first victim, we know she screamed. You could hear that on the video.
Anyone who recognizes the man seen in surveillance video is urged to contact police. And in political news this morning, President Donald Trump has abruptly forced out John Bolton, the hawkish national security advisor with whom he had strong disagreements on Iran, Afghanistan, and many other global challenges. Doug Luzader has the story this morning from Washington.
You know by now, Bolton, or was he pushed out? National Security Advisor John Bolton out, leaving President Trump to look for his 4th National Security Advisor.
And here's where it gets interesting, because if you ask President Trump, he says, well, I fired him. But Bolton says, no, Doug. He says, I resigned.
He was asked to resign, wasn't he?
Right. Well, that's what the president says. I guess it's a question of who struck first, and we really don't have the answer to that right now. It is clear, though, that the 2 of these guys really butted heads pretty often, and that kind of situation can only last so long.
A West Wing drama. Was National Security Advisor John Bolton really fired, or did he resign? From the president on Twitter, I informed John Bolton last night that his services are no longer needed at the White House. But Bolton says he quit, and here's his terse letter. I hereby resign effective immediately. Thank you for having afforded me this opportunity to serve our country.
Listen, I'm not going to get into the back and forth here.
The White House may not have wanted to talk about the specifics, but it's no secret there was tension.
I disagreed very much with John Bolton.
Bolton and the president didn't see eye to eye on a number of foreign policy fronts, from outreach to North Korea to recent efforts to hammer out a peace deal with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Bolton is not one to hide his views, and he is the 3rd national security advisor to come and go in the Trump administration. Who comes next? A number of administration insiders are believed to be up for the job. As for Bolton, this may not have been a total shock, something a veteran of that job made clear.
If the National Security Advisor and the president are not on the same page, it's not the president who's going to go, and I'm sure that John understands that.
Well, that's the thing. And Iran, by the way, is thrilled about this. They have long seen John Bolton, in their words, as a warmonger, and they're happy to see him go. Mike and Alex.
Real quickly, the results from North Carolina, we said we're going to mention that this morning. So Bishop squeaked one out.
Dan Bishop won. There would have been, as we mentioned this yesterday, the president would have had a lot of explaining to do if he didn't pull out, if the Republicans didn't pull out a win in that state. But it just shows you North Carolina is going to be something of a battleground in 2020.
Right. Which it wasn't last time. But
no,
2%.
Such a squeaker. Yeah. President Trump won that particular district in North Carolina by double digits, didn't he?
Yeah, by more than 11 points. There was really no excuse for a Republican to lose there.
Right.
This was kind of a close race, and it was a do-over. There were a lot of complicating factors there, but it's the Republican weakness in the suburbs that a lot of people are talking about here. That they're going to have to deal with that in 2020.
The suburbs of Charlotte. Thank you, Doug. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks.
7:30.
And in consumer news this morning, starting Thursday, Taco Bell will update its menu boards to feature a dedicated vegetarian section as well as debut new veggie-only options. Fox Business's Tracy Carrasco joined Good Day this morning with more.
Taco Bell. They have new menu items for you, Alex.
They do. And they're also out there for vegetarians because they're debuting a complete menu without meat, Tracy?
Let's go.
Yes, that's right. Taco Bell, they are debuting tomorrow their menu boards dedicated just to vegetarian options. So this is something we're going to see a few new things like the new black bean crunch wrap supreme, also the black bean quesarito, the 7-layer burrito, the regular bean burrito. So a lot of these things have been approved by the American Vegetarian Association. So I think that's a big deal for people who don't eat meat. They want to make sure that what they're eating is not maybe mixed with some meat products or made with some sort of meat byproduct. So I think this is going to be a good movement, even though Taco Bell has already really had a lot of vegetarian options available. Now this is just a specific menu for people who don't eat meat. They say they sell about 350 million vegetarian options every single year. So there's a demand.
Yeah, and it doesn't just affect people who don't eat meat. This will affect everybody because, you know, beans are the magical fruit.
The more you eat, really, the more you, yeah. Well, a bean burrito doesn't have any meat in it, does it?
No.
It does not.
That's the point.
Well, I know, but why? Isn't it already vegetarian?
They didn't have one before? I don't think they had one before.
They did. They did have a bean burrito. It's their second best-selling item, but now they have the menu just for vegetarians. So a vegetarian doesn't have to go through and look and say, okay, I can do this maybe without this. They have a specific menu.
And easier.
Yeah.
I want the beef taco, but without beef.
Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore.
Okay, I just want the taco.
I want the bean taco or something.
Yeah, okay.
And
The lettuce taco.
I wonder if they have chalupas with beans, because that's my thing, chalupas.
Is it?
Yeah.
No wonder you...
No wonder what. I didn't say I got them with beans. Not yet.
Tracy.
I like your hair.
Ah,
it looks good.
Thank
you. What's different about her hair?
I don't know. It looks different today. It looks good.
Like there's no part?
I just want to compliment her.
All right, she looks good.
All right, bye, Tracy.
And moving on to your Fox 29 weather authority. The Philadelphia area is slated for a dose of summer today with hot and humid conditions and temperatures rising to 90 degrees. Humidity will make those temperatures feel like they are in the mid-90s though, and precipitation unfortunately will return to our forecast in the form of some afternoon thunderstorms on Thursday. Then by Friday, temperatures will take a dip back into a more seasonable range in the low 70s. Here we have a look at current temperatures in our area. Still approaching 70 degrees up in the Poconos, 72 degrees over in Lancaster, and about the same here at home in Philadelphia. And already passing the mid-70s point in Wildwood, New Jersey, as well as Atlantic City. And looking ahead to your 7-day forecast, again, a hot and humid, hazy day this Wednesday, followed by another humid day tomorrow, though with a slight temperature dip before we see the real dip in temperature. 74 degrees is the expected high for Friday, ahead of what may be a sort of mixed bag this weekend with cloudy skies, some AM sun, and PM showers. And don't forget to download the latest version of the Fox 29 Weather Authority app to have the latest forecast. And on Good Day this morning, Apple is dangling deals for its new phones and TV streaming service as it seeks to offset slumping device sales with new services. Consumer reporter Steve Noviello joined us this morning with more on what Apple unveiled Tuesday at its product event in Cupertino, California.
I know. It's 8:16.
So Apple just unveiled its latest iPhone, and they made the announcement at an event at its headquarters in California. But what can customers really expect from this newest iPhone? Because I ask this every time, Steve Noviello, when they bring out a new one after I just got one, what is this really worth upgrading and worth $1,000?
Let me tell you, so here's me getting off of the Apple train. Come on, Apple. I mean, what was that all about yesterday? I mean, essentially, Apple introduced 3 new cameras that I think maybe make calls and text as well, although they never mentioned that capability during the announcement, so I really can't be sure. Take a look at the video we've got for you. Here's the big problem with the Apple announcement from yesterday. Yes, they're faster, the graphics cards, the central processors, the battery life is longer. These are all wonderful things, but this is a $1,000 cell phone that, guess what, is going to be obsolete in another year. 5G is coming. It's coming slowly, but it is coming, and you'll notice that none of the Apple announcement even acknowledged the 5G networks that are going to start sprouting up across the country, which means if you want to have 5G service in 2020 and beyond, you're going to need a 5G cell phone, which none of these are. So if you're planning on shelling out $1,200 for an iPhone 11 Pro, well, guess what? In another year, I hope you've got another $1,100 because you're going to need it.
Oh, well, they'll probably just come out with another one, expect people to pay to get a different one,
well, like you said, if you want to go 5G, you got to buy a new device.
You know, when we look at the competitors in the marketplace, and, you know, I have to say, I am an iPhone user. I like the technology that Samsung does better. I mean, look, they are still inventing, whereas Apple seems to be playing a lot of catch-up here. You know, at least give me something new. You know, a lot of the chat before the Apple announcement was about all of kind of the creature comforts that are missing from their devices. The idea that I have to, and you know this, you're at the anchor desk, your phone goes off, you've got to pick it up and look at it to see what's actually going on. There's no way to just kind of reach over and press your finger on it, right? The idea that perhaps there may be more angles from which it would recognize Face ID. None of that happened, but instead Apple said, yes, please come and, you know, spend all of this, you know, extra money. And the thing that really drives me crazy about Apple, I have to say, yes, you've got a very large screen, but 2/3 of the top portion of your screen are completely cut out by that ridiculous notch. I mean, this is really not real estate that works for the user, whereas you look at something like the Samsung product, they did a great job of having really true edge-to-edge technology, and they just notch out that little circle where the camera lens has to go. And my final thought on this, the Slowfie, the slow-moving video that allows you to take video of yourself will be the final nail in the coffin that is society. We do not need this. I don't need to see, you know, Slowfie selfies. Please. Please.
Yeah, I saw the video of a woman who was doing it, and she was like shaking
with
her
the
head.
hair dryer?
Yes, with the hair dryer. You're right. Why do we need that in our lives?
Oh. I mean, we're already falling off of cliffs trying to take pictures of ourselves. Do we need to see it in slow-mo?
I wonder why they don't get like a more of a wide-angle lens too, so you can take a better selfie without stretching your arm.
Well, they do now. I mean, and that's part of the new technology with this Apple thing, and that's why I joked at the beginning of the segment that, you know, really we're talking about new cameras. So these have new wide-angle lenses. They have this now, you know, dark light feature, which, by the way, we tested the Nokia Lumia 8 years ago and showed off how great that did in low lighting. Again, Apple really playing catch-up here, and I don't think it's worth the money. I will not be upgrading.
So, but you say all this to say you are Team iPhone, though, despite all these.
Honestly, it's what I use because I think the problem with Samsung a lot of the time is that their phones do too much. I mean, iPhone is essentially the jitterbug of Samsung, right? It's super easy. It's very intuitive. I'm very used to it. I've got, you know, group text messages that I have difficulty, you know, duplicating when I try and switch over to a Samsung.
Oh, we just lost some. That probably Apple. They got in there and said, all right, stop him from talking.
He kept bashing
Yes.
people.
Apple's like, we know technology. We'll make this work.
But it was interesting. They didn't even mention the fact that you can text and make phone calls with this thing. It was all about the cameras. What's a camera?
But maybe they're speaking to Gen Z, and they know Gen Z is going to want it for Christmas, and they just want to take pictures all day and slow.
And that is going to do it for us today at Fox 29's News Now. Be sure to catch us again tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. And follow us at fox29.com as well as our mobile app and across social media. And thank you for joining us this morning.